Hey everybody, welcome back to the When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast, the YouTube channel. We are in... Hey everybody, welcome back to the When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast, the YouTube channel. And on this video I have for you, this is a very special video that we did on our podcast last Monday. Came out last Monday. We interviewed a country star by the name of Buddy Jewell, and he's written some songs like Lacey's song, Help Pour Out the Rain, and Sweet Southern Comfort. Those are the songs that he's most known for, but he's done a plethora of songs, and he has a great sounding voice, and we did an interview with him on the When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast, available anywhere you get your podcast from. But I decided to record the video footage from that podcast so I can stick it on this channel for y'all to watch and enjoy. During the interview, my phone goes down a bit, so you can't see my whole face, but you get the idea. It's not about me, it's about Mr. Buddy Jewell. And I try not to focus too much on my side, because I'm so I'm learning. This is a new venture for me to record. This is a new venture for me to record a video. This is a venture for me to record video for our podcast, so it's going to be new to me, so just bear with me, and there will be many more great special guests for you in the future. I'm talking to a few big stars, big metal stars, and a owner of a drum company right now, so I know the owner of the drum company is down to do an interview with us in the near future. Enjoy this video footage of me talking to Buddy Jewell, available on anywhere you get podcasts from, or you can watch it here. But go there and subscribe to my podcast. Please, that'll help me tremendously. So yeah, enjoy. Thanks. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to listen to the best music podcast ever? Available on 6 platforms: Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Store, Spotify, and more. You're listening to the When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast with James Cox and Blake Mosley. And now, the When Words Fail Music Speaks interview.
Hey everybody, this is with the When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast. I'm your handicap host, James Cox. My co-host Blake cannot be here today. He's still messing around with this bathroom. I don't know what the problem is, but hopefully we'll get it back in there. Today is a really special episode because we got an awesome guest, and I just want to tell you a little bit about him before we bring him on. In 2003, our guest competed in the first season of the television singing competition, Nashville Star. He became the show's first winner for that season and was soon signed to a recording contract with Columbia Records Nashville. He made his debut on the American country music scene with the release of his self-titled album, which produced the singles Help Pour Out the Rain and Sweet Southern Comfort. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Buddy Jewell. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, James? Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, good to have you, man. This is so exciting. I just want to tell you, tell the people about something first. When I first emailed you, I didn't tell you my name, did I?
That's right.
I, I was so excited to email you and possibly get you on the show that I forgot to tell you my name, man. Yeah, so this is a really exciting moment for me and my co-host who once again could not be here.
Yeah,
So,
that's all right.
yeah. Yeah.
It's all good, man. We're here now.
Oh yeah. So how is COVID life treating you? I mean, is it good, bad?
It's my wife and I were talking about this the other day. I'm amazed at how God continues to take care of us. I look at what's coming in, and I go, no way, we're going to make it. But God has sustained us through all this, and we're counting on Him to keep us safe and keep all the bills paid. And so far, He's doing a fine job. He always has.
There you
So
go.
we're
Yes,
good,
sir.
man. It could
Oh
be,
yeah, oh yeah.
I'm like everybody else. I'm missing out on a lot of work and stage time. I finally did a show last weekend. I hadn't been
Oh,
on
did
the
you?
stage in front of a live audience in 6 months. So,
Right.
wow, but it was a lot of fun. I was down on the Gulf Coast, so we had a great time.
Cool, man. Cool, man. Um, I know of have a mutual friend, Ernie Evans.
You know that guy?
I do. I do. He is a great guy. A great guy.
I
And I
love
think,
Ernie Evans.
yeah,
He
he's
and
great,
his
yeah,
wife
man.
Debbie are both sweet
He's
people.
been a friend for a while now.
Okay.
I met him through. Okay, so I saw a video of him and Tyler Williams play a Shenandoah cover of I forgot the song name, but I think you shared it on your Facebook page, and it blew up to like 8 million views right now.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I mean, and already contacted me, thanking me, um, to for posting that because ever since then, Tyler got so many requests to play with him and everything. So I'm glad to help him too.
Nice. Well,
So
that's
yeah,
cool, man.
yeah. So that blew up, and Ernie and I been talking, and I asked him, do you have any friends that could come on? And he's like, yeah, man. Why don't you hit up Buddy Jewell? Contact his PR guy, and you know. So I contacted the PR guy. I didn't hear from him, so that's why I emailed you, and lo and behold, I've got my name. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was looking at that. I think the name they gave for the PR guy was the wrong guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
it's
because
all right,
they
though.
gave me Mr. Brown's name.
Yeah, Mitchell's my producer, my PR
Mitchell, you're
guy's
right.
guy. Yeah. I got there's a different guy that does PR. Craig Campbell does my PR.
Okay, all right. Oh, yeah, but
that's the problem. Yeah,
that's okay. Man, I got you anyway, so that's all that matters, right?
that's right.
So can you tell me about your first music memory? I mean, like, what's the earliest you can remember music being played anywhere?
Wow. James, it would probably be either in church, because as a little boy, my parents, took us to church, from at a very early age. Either that, or I remember mom and dad had bought this old record player back in the late '60s. Well, probably more like the mid to late '60s, and it played 33 and a third records. It's like a CD, but it's as big as a pizza for all your viewers out there.
Yeah, yeah.
An LP is. Um, and I would sit and listen to Marty Robbins and Johnny Cash and Johnny Horton and guys
All the
like
good
that. My
stuff.
dad loved those
Yeah.
kind of singers and songwriters, and so I would listen to those records over and over and over. So those are probably my earliest recollections of music memories.
Cool. Yeah. My mom says that I saw Johnny Cash live, and I don't know, and I cannot remember.
Oh man,
Because I was like 5 or 6 years old, and we always went to Busch Gardens, and she said that I saw him. I'm like, well, you couldn't take any pictures. She didn't have any proof of that. So
yeah.
Um, so what kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Well, I started out, of course, like anybody else. I loved the kind of the country stuff, the pop. But well, I'll take that back. Back then, growing up, when I got to be a teenager, I really didn't listen to a lot of country music because it was too twangy for me.
Right.
And so I was kind of into pop stuff, songwriters like James Taylor and Jim Croce and John Denver and people like that.
Yeah.
And then when I got up a little older and started to sing in clubs and stuff like that, a buddy of mine turned me on to Hank Williams. My best friend, John King, turned me on to Hank Williams when we were in high school and college, and it kind of drew me into back into country music. And then I remember specifically hearing a song by the group Alabama when I was in college. They had a song called "Old Flame" that was just this incredible, 3-part harmony thing, and I heard that on a jukebox. I was in a little beer joint. I wasn't supposed to be in there, but I was in there. And anyway, I was in the beer joint, and this was playing on a jukebox, and I just got in love with country music.
Right. So, which artist inspired you as a singer?
Oh my goodness! Well, Randy Owen from Alabama definitely is one of the big ones, but a lot of the guys that I mentioned earlier, Johnny Horton, Marty Robbins, Jim Reeves was another one. But I also loved guys like Dan Fogelberg. Oh my goodness! Like I said, James Taylor was another big influence. Don Williams. I loved great singers and great singer-songwriters.
So, okay, it's a great thing you did. That you
Waylon, by the way, Waylon Jennings was another huge one as well.
Waylon Jennings. Yes, got to throw the big dog in there. So you said you mostly listen to pop. So so when did you decide that you want to be a country singer instead of going to the pop route or to the rock and roll route?
Yeah, well, man, when I started, I guess when I started maturing, my late teens, and I country music just really spoke to me. I loved story songs. Kenny Rogers was another one. It was a big influence on me. I loved all the great story songs that he did, and so that I think is really what drew me in, the melodies and the stories and the songs. I mean, I didn't. There were certain country artists, that I still gravitated towards. Like I loved Glenn Campbell and Johnny Cash because I'm from Arkansas. In fact, my parents grew up with the Cash family in a little town called Dyce, Arkansas. So I've always been a Cash fan.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't exclusively pop. It's just a lot of the twangy kind of 70s, 60s, and 70s, the Buck Owens kind of stuff. I just didn't really dig then. I mean, I'm a lot different now. I enjoy that kind of music now, but it's just something had to kind of grow on me.
Right. So who did you seek out to begin your dream as a musician? Did you seek out did you have to take singing lessons first, guitar lessons, and I mean yeah.
No, well, I probably should have.
No, dude. You're great.
Yeah. Well, you're very kind. I started singing at church as a little boy. I mean, from like in kindergarten up, and then when we moved to Osceola, Arkansas, when I was in the 4th grade, the church that we attended had a children's and a youth choir, and so that kind of got me rolling. There was a lady named Nancy Jane Blair who was the choir director at the time when I would wound up there in Osceola, and she taught me a lot about singing in choirs and stuff, and breathing techniques and things that I still use today. And she and another gentleman named John Dresbach, who came along after Miss Blair left, and John was our youth leader and also the music director there as well. And he had they started an ensemble. Like I want to say I'm trying to think, there were 8 people, 4 guys, 4 gals, singing in this kind of a Christian pop ensemble type thing, and I auditioned and won a part in that. And then when I went up in college, I auditioned for another ensemble there at Arkansas State University and wound up singing in it as well. So it was kind of a culmination of a lot of different things to singing. Musically, when I was 14, or as far as playing an instrument, being very honest with you, I heard the song Stairway to Heaven and I loved the acoustic guitar on the front of that song, and
Right.
I thought, man, I would love to be able to play that, and that was one of my goals, was to be able to play that song.
Yeah.
And so I had a couple uncles that played guitar, and they taught me a few chords, and a couple of cousins that played guitar that taught me a few things, and so I never took any formal lessons, and just along the way people would teach me. I would be writing with someone, and I say, how are you making that chord that you're playing there? And they would show me, and so I just kind of there again, some accumulated knowledge, but nothing I can actually point to one particular person.
Right. So when you were playing guitar at a young age, what was your first guitar, and do you usually have it?
No, there was a guy I went to school with. His name was Chucky McBride. And Chucky and I were friends. Chucky was a big old boy, and he had this little guitar that he sold me for $10, James, and I didn't know it, and he probably didn't either. But the neck was warped on it, and it wouldn't stay in tune. And then I think somebody else along the line, they gave me an old Sears Silvertone electric guitar, and I think the neck was pretty bad shape on it too. But Mr. Dresbach, who was my youth director, he had a gut string classical guitar, and he took an interest in me, and he would let me borrow that guitar, and I'd take it home for days at a time. And I really probably learned to play. Initially started playing guitar on Mr. Dresbach's guitar, and then when I was in high school, a girlfriend for Christmas bought me a new guitar, and that was the first new guitar that I ever had. So, yeah.
Now with this guitar, did you teach yourself music, or did you get lessons, or did your dad teach you something?
No, like I said, I have a couple uncles that showed me the basics, like G, C, and D and some things like that. And then I worked as well, I don't know what they call them now, but I bagged groceries at one of the local supermarkets there in Osceola. And I'd take that money and I would buy music books that had sheet music in them. I couldn't read sheet music, but they would always have the chord symbols above the music, staff and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I learned how to, to play. I could because I'd listen to stuff on the radio, buy these song books of all the hits of 19 whatever it was, and just go through that book and kind of learn how to play them. It was a gift that God gave me that I just it just developed.
Yeah, that's true. Did you pick it up pretty quick, or did it take you like several months, or like a year?
No, it takes me a lot of practice. I'll never be a lead guitar player, but I'll tell you a funny story. I was, I guess I was in junior high, and I was still, I was probably 16 years old, something like that. Still kind of learning how to play, and I would sit down. My mom and dad had this old porch swing on our carport at our house there, and I'd sit on that porch swing with that guitar and a cheek full of Red Man chewing tobacco. And sit out there and just change chords. I would go, A through G, A, B, C, D, F, G, and just keep repeating, changing chords as fast as I could, teaching myself that stuff and chewing tobacco and spitting. And I remember one time this gal that I really liked a lot came riding up on her bicycle, and I had the big chaw of tobacco in my cheek.
Stick it out, yeah.
I'm like, oh man, this is really bad timing. And I think I wound up swallowing some of the juice, so I didn't spit in front of her.
Yeah. That's anything to impress a lady, right?
That's right.
That's right.
At an early age, I was.
But you gotta start sometime, right? Yeah, you gotta start sometime. That's funny.
That's right.
With your first album, One in a Row in 2001, and your second album, Far Enough Away in 2002, being self-released by you. What was a recording session like, and how did you go about releasing it for yourself?
Oh, wow. A lot of those things were just demos that I'd done along the way of things that I wrote, because I wrote everything on both those records. I wrote or co-wrote them. And so those were essentially demos. Now, when I found out that I was had a shot at being on Nashville Star, I hurried up and I got Far Enough Away finished, because I thought, man, if I can get on television, then maybe I can sell a few CDs and these ugly T-shirts that we had,
right,
and make a little money, And so, but yeah, those were all just essentially demos that I had laying around, songs that I'd written.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Now, when did you hear about the Nashville Star competition?
Well,
Was
there
it
was
on TV or?
Nah, you know what? I didn't have a clue about it. A friend of mine, Richard Johnson, at my church, I'd show up on Sunday morning, and he just bugged me like for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. Hey man, there's this new singing in this new competition. It's like American Idol, but it's for country singer songwriters, and you really ought to, get involved. And I'm like, oh, Richard, because I'd done all the Marlboro
Yeah.
contests, and I'd even been
Yeah.
on back in the early '90s. There was a show called Ed McMahon's Star Search, and I
Yeah.
was a male
Okay.
vocalist
Cool. Yeah.
champion on there for 3 shows, and thought that that would be my big break, and that didn't happen. And I'd won like this contest in Dallas when I lived there, and got to open for Alabama, and there in at this huge amphitheater, and thought that that was going to help my career. In fact, that's why I moved to Nashville. The people that managed that contest taught me into moving to
Right.
Nashville.
Yeah.
But just I was kind of burned out on talent shows because a lot of them that I'd been in were kind of rigged. And but eventually just kind of shut Richard up. I said, okay, I'll try out. Just leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I was watching a previous interview of you. You've done it last year, and you said that 2 days after you won the Nashville Nashville Star competition, you played at the Grand Ole Opry. So,
Yeah, 3 weeks later, sure did.
okay. So, can you tell me about that day? Like what was the day leading up before you took it to stage? How was it on
Oh.
stage?
Well, I tell you, that's a really cool story for me. Years before, I moved to Nashville in 1993 trying to get a record deal, and I couldn't get one. And I sang thousands of demo songs that, people wound up recording a bunch of those and having hits with them, stuff like that. But I got to meet Porter Wagner, become friends with Porter, and he had tried for a long time to get the people that ran the Opry to let me sing on the Opry, and they wouldn't do it.
Right.
And so when I won the show, one of the things is they guaranteed the winner got to play the Opry. And so Porter was tickled to death, and I got this great picture of him and my dad and me on the side of the stage. And I can't tell who's more proud, my dad or Porter.
Yeah.
Sing on the
Yeah.
Opry. Yeah.
Well, I think your dad was. I think your dad.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but it was just, Clint Black produced my first record, and Clint gave me a lot of great advice. And I remember that night he told me, he said, man, he said, just, be sure that you kind of step back and observe what's going on around you, because this stuff is going to go by so fast. You don't want to miss these memories.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember walking on the stage, and I'd been to the Opry a few times before backstage. Porter I'd been a guest of his a lot. And I remember on Saturday nights, they would turn the house over and do a second show, and they'd let people walk out there when the curtain was closed and stand in the circle, that came from the floor from the original, Opry, house at the Ryman. And
Right.
you could stand out there and take a picture behind the big WSM mic. And so I remember one night I was out there with my mom, and I went out there and took a picture, and I came back, and my mom said, one of these days you're going to be out there and you're going to be singing your music out there in that circle. And I'm like, yeah, right. But
Sure, well, whatever. Yeah.
so I vaguely remember walking on stage and singing. It was it was like I was in a fog.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was so surreal, and I didn't realize until I got off stage. Clint came to me and he said, did you see what happened? And I said, what?
Oh.
He said, you got a standing ovation going on, and you got a standing ovation coming off. He said, that never happens here.
Wow.
And I'm like, God, I mean, I was just, it's still, it's hard to believe,
Yeah. Very hard to believe. On July 1st, 2003, your self-titled album "Buddy Jewell" released to the world. How was working with Clint Black, who produced the album as well as played some songs on it?
I would say that one more time.
How was working with Clint Black, who produced your first album, and he also played some songs on it, right?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Harmonica and stuff like that.
Yeah, Clint was great to work with. He was our mentor on the show, And the deal that Sony had made was whoever won the show, Clint was going to produce their record.
Okay.
And so we got to know him a little bit from him, coming and hanging around the house a little bit, or being on the show with us and things like that. But yeah, I had a lot of fun working with Clint. I remember when there were only 5 of us left on the show, Sony had come to the 5 remaining finalists and said, "Hey, look, we don't know which one of you guys is going to win."
Right.
So we got to send you in the studio with Clint, and each one of you needs to record a single. And so I had already sung the song I wrote about my daughter Lacey, "Help Pour Out the Rain," on the show, and it just got this enormous response to it online. And so I knew I was going to record that song.
Yeah.
But I remember going to the studio with Clint, and kind of a funny thing was I had always envisioned like a fiddle playing the la da 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 dee part that I sing on the song.
Right.
And I remember when I did that first record, if you ever listen to the first album I did, One in a Row, there's a copy of the original cut of "Help Pour Out the Rain" is called Lacey's Song. Okay. And on that cut, there is no la da 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 dee. It's all a fiddle playing that melody. Well, the la da 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 dee came about because I couldn't afford to hire a fiddle player when I played out live, so I just sang the la da 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 dee part. And when I went in the studio to cut it, I replaced the la da 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 dee with a fiddle.
Right.
And then I had people coming back after they buy the CD. This is before Nashville Star. I played a little Mexican place every other Saturday night, and they'd buy the record and they'd come back the next week or whatever and say, "Man, what happened to the la da 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 dee on your song?" I'm like, "Oh crap, I left the hook off my own song." Yeah. So I told Clint that story, so we made sure I put la da da dee on. But the funny thing about it was, he originally Clint had played. He's a great guitarist and harmonica player and all this stuff, and he had played the Stratocaster on the song, and it just didn't fit the song to me. It was like a 2 left feet. And I'm like, "Oh my God, how am I going to tell Clint Black that I don't like his guitar playing?" And then it had to have been something, from God. And I thought, wait a minute, he plays harmonica. And I went to him and said, "Hey, Clint, what would you think about playing some harmonica on the front of this?"
Right.
And so he did. And then I said, "I really like that a lot. What would you think about replacing your guitar and playing harmonica in the solo instead of your guitar?" And that's how the harmonica wound up on that song. Well, after I won the show, we're making the record, and I told Clint that story. I said, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, but I didn't know how to tell you that I didn't like what you were playing, and he laughed and said, "Well," he said, to avoid that, he said, "It's kind of like this, let's say that you like cheeseburgers and I like hamburgers. I don't like cheese." He said, "If I do something you don't like, just say, Clint, I don't want cheese on that."
I don't want, right. So,
yeah.
He's like a straight up guy,
Yeah. So I pop up and I go, "Clint, don't want any cheese on that, buddy."
That's awesome. Cause I can't imagine working with a legendary person like Clint Black, but to hear that he's such down to earth just makes me like him even more,
Yeah. Great guy.
He seems like a really good guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the song "Help Pour Out the Rain," Lacey's song about your daughter, was the first single off of your Buddy Jewell album. Can you tell the story to our fans here on the When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast, the story behind that song and what the song means to you?
Oh, wow. It's a true story. Lacey was about 3. There was a lady that did in-home daycare for us. I was a studio singer. My wife was a nail technician. She did, these sculptured nails and stuff like that all the ladies were still wear. Mm-hmm. And she had a really good thriving business. So so a lot of days we had to take our kids out to a lady that did in-home daycare. And I was on the way to take Lacey to Miss Kay's house. And she's 3 years old. She's sitting in her back, in a little car seat in the back of the car. And we get in this conversation about Jesus in heaven somehow. And she says, "Well, Daddy, I don't think I want to go to heaven." And I said, 3 years old, I said, "Well, I think you ought to reconsider, because I hear the other place doesn't have air conditioning."
Yes, sir.
And so she got real quiet. And a couple minutes later, she said, "Daddy, if I go to heaven, will God let me help pour out the rain?" And I thought, wow. And the songwriter in me didn't kick in, but I thought, God, that's how sweet. I mean, only a kid could think of that.
Right.
And then several months later, I couldn't sleep one night, and that scene kind of came back to me. And then the melody, the la da 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 dee 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 dee, started coming to me, and I learned because of previously not getting up and writing stuff down, thinking I remembered in the morning, and then waking up in the morning not remembering nothing.
Right.
I learned, get your rear end up and write. So I got up, it's probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
and I wrote the majority of the song in about an hour, and just thought it was something sweet that my daughter had said. Never realized that people would identify with it like they do. And so it's a very it's probably it's the most special song I've ever written for several reasons. My daughter, if she hadn't said that to me, it would have never gotten written.
Right. Exactly.
And I just get I have gotten thousands of emails and letters from people all over the world that song has spoken to. Sadly, a lot of them, is because they lose somebody, and in particular, a lot of people, when they lose children, would identify with that song, and it played at their funeral and things like that. But to know that God kind of used it to be a little part of the healing process for people, and is just priceless for me. So the song means a lot.
That's a really cool story. Did you ever think that your daughter would be able to be the one? Did you ever think your daughter would ever be the inspiration to one of your biggest songs?
That she would be an inspiration for my song? No,
no.
I'd learned to listen, to people and listen, as a writer. I read every bumper sticker and every billboard, things like that, getting ideas or listening to people, and somebody make they slip up and say something kind of oddly or whatever. But I never dreamed that something would come from my daughter, and actually, both my boys have inspired, songs I've written as well. They just hadn't been hits yet, so.
Right. Okay. So moving on to the second single from the album, "Sweet Son Comfort." What was the process of the song? Meaning, like, did they bring you the song to sing for them, or did they show you, did they take you through a lot of songs and pick out the best out of that bunch?
I actually discovered that song totally by accident when I was on Nashville Star. I told you earlier about them coming to the 5 remaining contestants and saying you got to do a single. And I knew what I was going to record already, but I was in the house one day. It was on Nashville Star. It was like American Idol plus Big Brother plus Survivor.
Oh, wow. Right.
They had us all stuck in this house together, had to live together, and they were hoping we'd get mad and fight with each other and all this stuff. And every week somebody got voted off, like Survivor. And
right.
And so, but I was listening. The A&R people from Sony wrote the house, and they were playing songs for the other 4 contestants because some of them hadn't written songs that they felt like were airworthy or whatever. And they were playing, that was one of the songs they were playing for my buddy Brandon Silvero, who was still one of the contestants at that time. Mm-hmm. And I heard it and I thought, gosh, what a great song. And I thought, wow, man, if you win this television show, you ought to think about recording that. Right. And so when it came time to do the record, and we were in this enormous, no one's ever made a record as fast as we did. I guarantee it's got to be a Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
But when we sat down the first day to talk about songs for the record, I brought that up and I said, hey, I want to cut this song. And so Tracy Gershon was my A&R person at Sony. And anyways, that's how the song wound up on the record. And boy, am I glad it did, because that's, I helped Write the Rain, sold more records, but Sweet Southern Comfort got more airplay. So
right, which is two of the best two from the best worlds, because one song made you a lot of money, and you got more requests to, some people wanted to see you sing singing that Sweet Southern Comfort song, which is a great song. Yeah.
Thank you.
What has that song meant for you in the past years as well as today?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I had a problem on my end. What'd you say again, James?
Okay. What has that song meant for you in the past as well as today?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there again, it's I would say here in the United States, it's really my signature song. I'm known for that song. Now, when I go, to Europe and Scandinavia and stuff like that, people know me more for "Help Pour Out the Rain" than they do "Sweet Southern Comfort," which I think is cool and ironic.
Yeah.
But that song, "Sweet Southern Comfort," it's an ageless song. I mean,
Right.
it still gets played on radio a lot today. People, here it is 17 years after the television show. And it's still every summer when it rolls around, especially when football season starts getting kind of close, they play that a bunch. I know ESPN had licensed it to use on all their SEC games that one year. And so it was a big thing, and it's a big song for me. So it means a lot to me as well.
Cool. I Surrender All is your sixth album that came out in 2011. It is your first and only gospel album so far. What made you want to record a gospel album?
Well, that's another funny story if you got time.
Oh yeah, we got lots of time, so don't worry.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in church, so the gospel thing was just a natural deal. But my mother, God rest her soul, I lost her 2 years ago. But back about 2009, 2010. Mama came to me and she said, "Hey, here's a list of songs I want you to sing at my funeral." And I said, "Mama," I said, I thought, boy, typical Southern mom,
Yeah.
I said, "Mama," I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to sing that day. I'm probably pretty tore up, I said, and there's no guarantee that I'm not going before you do,
Right.
And so I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. Why don't I'll go in the studio and I'll record a few of these for you, and then you can play those at the funeral." And so that was kind of what got me started to doing the record. But the funny thing is, once I finished it, I got so involved in making the record that I didn't realize until after it was done and out that I didn't put a single one of my mom's requests on.
Oh no! Oh my God! Yeah. But
anyway.
But there's one track on here that I don't think really fits that album really. Track number 5, "Jesus, Elvis, and Me." It's a great song. It's very catchy, The song is vastly different from all the other songs on the album. What made you choose to put this album on a gospel album?
Well, when I was doing my second record for Sony back in 2005, my producer Garth Fundus was producing that record. And he called me in his office one day and said, "Man, don't you hear this song?" And he played it for me. And I went, "Oh man, we got to put that on this record, Garth." He said, "We can't." I said, "Why can't we?" He said, "Brad Paisley has it on hold."
Oh
so
no!
I said, "Well," so I called Brad. I said, "Hey man, this Jesus, Elvis, and Me song." I said, "Are you really going to record this?" "Oh yeah, I love it. We're going to do it. It's going to be on my record." And I said, "Well, listen, do me a favor. If for some reason you decide not to do it, please let me know as soon as possible, because if you're not going to do it, I'm putting it on my record." Brad said, Brad goes, "No, don't worry. I'm going to put it on my record." I said, "Okay, man, cool." Well, a few weeks go by, my phone rings, and it's Brad. He says, "Man, you're going to kill me." And I said, "Yeah, I sure am." What happened? He said, "Well, we went in the studio and we did all the tracking and everything, and it just wasn't working for me." So he said, "Man, you can have it." And I'm like, he said, "I'm so sorry." He said, "I'll come play guitar on the track for you or whatever." And I said, "It's too late. Sony had already said, turn everything you got in, and you can't cut anymore." And the record was finished. Otherwise, that would have been on the second, on the Times Like These record, and would have been the first single off that record. But that's just, as fate would have it. So when I started putting that record together in 2010, I was on my way to Afghanistan and Iraq and Kuwait. I was doing a USO tour with a sergeant major of the Army. And I was putting that record together, and I remember that song. I thought, well, it does say Jesus' name about 20 times. So
Yeah.
said, I know it's not a gospel song, but I'm gonna put it on there anyway because I'm the one paying for the record, and
Right.
I get to do what I want to do. So
There we go. There you go. Well, what I would tell you the story also. My mom is a big, huge fan of Elvis, right? So I think the order would go Jesus, Elvis, my dad, my sister, and me. So I'm the way at the all the way at the end of the spectrum. So
I got you.
that's a great song. That's a really really catchy song.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton wrote that actually.
Did he?
Yep.
Yeah, well, Chris Stapleton writes amazing songs. I'm surprised he's not as bigger as he is right now. That guy's a genius, pure genius. Yeah.
He's great.
The album I surrender, the album after I surrender all was My Father's Country. Did your father inspire you about the album, or did you want to bring back the old traditional country as opposed to what country is today?
It was a mixture of both, actually. I'd always wanted to do that kind of a record. I grew up loving all those songs, and when I started putting the record together, I was trying to, figure out if should I do some kind of theme or not. And as I was choosing songs, I got to look at them, and I realized that I was picking songs that my dad really loved.
Right.
And so I decided to do it as a tribute to him. And so that's where the title "My Father's Country" came from.
Yeah. Yeah, because it seems to me like the old school country had more stories to their songs, and nowadays there's no story anywhere involved in it.
Oh yeah, there's one story involved in a lot of them. You take a girl out with your a white tank top with a cooler full of beer on a dirt road under the moonlight,
right?
And make out with her in the back of your pickup truck. That's the only story they can tell.
Yes, sir. That's it. You nailed it on the head on that one. So talking about country now, what do you think about country music today? Because you have a song called "Taylor Went Pop" on the album "Shine On." So I mean, she claims she's country, but I never heard her sing country before.
I think when Taylor decided she was going to pop, she was the last person to realize that she already was.
Yeah,
but,
right. I didn't even think that she was labeled country, so yeah. I never. Yeah.
There's and kudos to Taylor Swift. I mean, she's making an enormous living doing what she does. She's a very talented singer songwriter. So I mean, hats off to her. There's a lot of stuff that I don't really consider, country music that's being passed off as it. And it just makes me another one of those old farts, like, I'm sure that, Porter and those guys are saying the same thing about Waylon Jennings and them, Waylon and Willie, when they were kind of switching things up and so forth. So, but I'm not a big fan of a lot of the modern country music that especially the bro country stuff that's got the rap stuff mixed in it and the chord progressions. Somebody did a mix-up tape one time. I thought it was hilarious, of all these hit songs. They were all the same tempo and all had literally the same chord progressions in it. I mean, no, not melodically they were not, but chord for chord. It was the G chord and then the D chord and then the E minor chord and then the C chord and then back to G, and just that whole repetition on tons of these hits, from oh gosh, the early 2000s even up to today, and it's just it gets really old. Right. And so there was no creativity to me when you're doing this cookie cutter thing. And I know nowadays, I guess they write a lot to try to draw on a bigger audience, and that's cool, but I think there's a lot of country music fans they're not servicing, they're doing a disservice to.
Yeah.
And you know what? And that's fine, because hopefully those people like that still know they can find guys like me and listen to my music.
There you go. I honestly think that there's three musicians that are bringing back, that are keeping old country alive. That's you, Chris Stapleton, of course, and the brothers Osborne,
Yeah.
They're really really good. They got some amazing songs. I truly love their song "Pushing Up Daisies." So.
Mm. Well, thanks,
Um,
man. That's a big compliment. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Now we come to the year 2020, which is this year, and what a year has been. You released your recent album, Blue Bonnet Highway. This is a bluegrass album. Can you tell us your relationship with bluegrass music?
Well, I'll be the first one to tell you I'm not a bluegrass musician. I love bluegrass music. I don't know a whole lot about the genre. I'm I enjoyed making this record. It all came about because of Ernie Evans, really, and Mitchell Brown. I got hired to play one of Ernie's cruises that they do every year. Which, by the way, for your friends out there watching, coming up in February, March of next year. It's February 27th through March 4th. We're leaving out of Fort Lauderdale, going to Jamaica and Haiti.
Wow.
And you can check that out on my website or go to evansmediasource.com. But it's called the Classic Country and Bluegrass Cruise, and that's how I met Ernie and Mitchell. And I do a Facebook Live thing every Tuesday night. I've been doing it for 3.5 years now, called Tuesday's Tune. It's 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock your time. And on that show, I usually sing a couple of, country standards or maybe some pop thing, from Bob Seger or God knows who else. But I had done some Ed Bruce music on there one night, and Mitchell and Ernie both got in touch with me and said, you ought to think about taking some of this stuff because it would lend itself really well in doing a bluegrass record with it. And I'm like, guys, I don't know a thing about bluegrass. I love it. But
Right.
And they said, well, don't worry about it. We know a lot about it, and they do. And so I was a little hesitant because I didn't want, I know when I would see pop guys or rock and roll guys come over into country, into the genre, and I would go, God, there's not enough room on the radio for people now. And now you got, guys like, and no offense, but guys like Kid Rock and Darius Rucker, coming from the rock and roll world, and all of a sudden they're getting played on country radio, and that's keeping a country artist from getting played. So, I mean, there was a little bit of that kind of thing. I didn't want bluegrassers to feel that way about me,
Right.
But I told Ernie and Mitchell, I said, well, let's give it a shot and see, we'll cut a few things and see what it sounds like. And the more I got into it, the more I enjoyed it. And then I'm friends with a guy named Jerry Salley. He's a great bluegrass artist, and he's like the songwriter of the year for the IBMA, I think, last year, and has been a few years here and there. I went in with Jerry, and he was nice enough to sit down and write with me. I used to do studio work for him when I was doing all those country demos. And he and I wrote Teardrop in the Gulf of Mexico, which I think is a great song. It's been our first single, and it's, they're playing it on Sirius XM on Bluegrass Junction on Channel 62. And so anyway, the more I kind of got into doing the record, the more I got into doing the record,
Right.
And I had a lot of fun, and it's just been a learning experience for me. I'm not through doing bluegrass by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, good.
It's not a one-off kind of thing for me. I really enjoyed it, especially all the acoustic elements. I've always loved banjo, fiddle, and dobro. Oh my goodness, just in having all those things melded together. And Mitchell and Ernie both were so instrumental in getting all these great bluegrass pickers to play on the record for me.
Right.
And so just to have that kind of talent and those people believing in me enough to come play on the record was really cool. So I'm going to be around for a while.
Good.
Willing.
That's great news. I can't wait to hear more bluegrass and other music from you. On this album, you re-released your songs that made you who you are today, Help Pour Out the Rain and Sweet Sun Comfort. Can you tell me why did you choose to re-release these on this album? To me, they sound wonderful. I mean, you got the You got the I think it's the it's some kind of Confederate song playing before Sweet Southern
Oh
Comfort.
yeah, Dixie. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Dixie. I can't think of the
That's
name.
okay.
And it sounded like you have a lot more acoustic sound in both of those songs.
Yeah, there again, I have to give Mitchell Brown most of the credit for us redoing those songs. He's did a phenomenal job producing it and finding songs on there. Big role in that as well.
Right.
But I'm really tickled they did that. In fact, I didn't know about the Dixie stuff until Mitchell had already gone to the studio and done it with Amanda Smith. And when I heard the opening, I thought, oh my gosh, what a great idea. Put that on the front of that song and then on the
Right. Well, you have a song on your, it's called, I think it's called Willie.
Willie Gave Up Weed.
Yes, that is a fantastic song, man. I laughed so hard. Have you met Willie Nelson before?
Yeah, I've been around Willie a couple of times, just briefly. Don't really know him. I don't even know if he's heard the song. I tried to get it to him.
Yeah.
But I was reading Fox News one day and I saw this report back in November of last year that Willie had quit smoking pot because of his lungs.
No. Right.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that's got to be a sign of the end of the world,
Yeah.
So the more I thought about it, the more tickled I got about it, and I thought, oh gosh, I got to write this down. Anyway, I'm glad I did. I had a lot of fun. I was able to poke fun at both political parties and stuff like that in it, and I think not hurt anybody's feelings, but it was a lot of fun.
Right, good. Yeah, that's an amazing song. Funny too. So if anybody who was out there that go get Blue Bond Highway right now, because I think you picked at number 19 now, or is it further up the billboards?
Well, let's see. Blue Bonnet Highway is actually number 20. Well, and the last I looked, it was number 20 on the Bluegrass chart, on the Bluegrass Today chart, and the album has gone from number 40 to number 34 on the Americana chart.
Nice.
So, yeah, so God's kind of letting us play them in both playgrounds right now. I like that.
That's cool. I mean, that gets more fans for you because
more exposure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. So can you tell my fans and your fans where they can also find you on any platform?
Well, I am I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok until they outlaw it. I've got a YouTube channel. BuddyJewell.com is a great place to go to get music and T-shirts and all kind of stuff. And be sure you put 2 L's on Jewell, not just
2 L's. Nope.
Yeah. But and you can buy the record right on Facebook. You can click on the shop button when you're on the Buddy Jewell channel. And watch out for those guys out there pretending they're to me, because there's a lot of imposters out there. And they like pretending they're me. But I am I'm Buddy Jewell on Facebook. I am the Buddy Jewell on Instagram, and I am at Buddy Jewell on Twitter. So
nice. And all of them have that blue check, so they know it's you, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much, buddy. This is one for me to check off my bucket list. This has really been fun, and thank you so much for coming on.
Oh man, I've had a lot of fun. I hope when I make it through South Carolina, I get to meet you in person, shake your hand.
Yes, sir. We will do. Right. Well, thank you very much. Buddy.